Forza Horizon 5 is an absolute spectacle. That's easy to see, but some things aren't so apparent. Things like, how can you upgrade the fast travel option? Or what's the difference between accolade points and experience points? These are just a couple questions I hope to answer in this video. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a video full of advanced tips on how to win the game's toughest races. It's more of a beginner's guide for people just starting out or who are a little overwhelmed with everything this awesome game has to offer. And with that out of the way, here are some of the things I wish I had known before starting Forza Horizon 5. One of the more confusing parts of Forza Horizon 5 for me early on was how you earn progression. There are actually 3 progression tracks. One for how you earn skill points, which are used to upgrade vehicles. One for how you earn experience points to earn new cars and in-game currency. And another for how you unlock story missions. Let's start with how you unlock story missions. This is done by earning accolade points, which are rewarded for completing any of the tasks posted in the game's accolades menu. By the way, if you press the A button to select any accolade that requires you to complete a specific race or event, you'll pin its location, which will create a driving line leading you directly to where you can earn that accolade. Anyhow, each accolade rewards you with a certain number of points, which are tallied in the top right of the pause menu. When you have enough points to unlock a new story mission, you can then go to the game's Horizon Adventure menu to decide which mission to start. Next, let's look at experience points. These are earned by doing just about anything in the game, from smashing XP boards to discovering new areas to completing events. You'll see on-screen notifications whenever you earn experience, and when you eventually level up, you'll earn a wheel spin. These are basically loot boxes, but not to worry, the rewards are more or less pretty good. Typically a new car or a significant amount of in-game currency. By the way, if you're wondering where to see your level, it's displayed at the top left of the pause menu next to your username. Okay, so what about the third progression track? Well, as you drive around, you'll rack up what's called a skill score. More on this later, but for now, just know that you're rewarded a score for driving around basically like a maniac. When you finally fill up this yellow tire meter, you're rewarded with a skill point, which you can then spend to upgrade any one of your cars. So that's how progression works in Forza. I wish the game did a better job of explaining these 3 tracks, but if you're new to the game and you were as confused as I was, I hope this helped. Another thing I feel Forza Horizon 5 does a lousy job of explaining is the fast travel system. Before I talk through how to unlock the ability to fast travel to any road on the map, let me first explain the basic fast travel system. Early on, you can only travel to any of the game's 7 houses that you've purchased or any festival outpost you've unlocked by progressing through the campaign. But what I missed and took an embarrassingly long time to discover was the subtle prompt at the bottom of the screen to press the X button to fast travel. Yeah, I'm sure this was obvious to a lot of you, but I just didn't see it, and I can't imagine I'm the only one. Anyways, this will cost you some in-game credits, but if you smash through fast travel signs that you'll find throughout the world, that cost will continue to drop. Okay, now for what you've probably been waiting for. How do you unlock the ability to fast travel to any road on the map? Well, to do this, you have to unlock and purchase the Buena Vista house, which appeared on my map after I finished the Guanajuato expedition, which is the first story mission in the Street Scene Festival. So do that, and the Buena Vista house should appear on the southern part of the Baja region on your map. You can then buy it, and once you do, you can then, like I said, fast travel to any road anywhere in Mexico. That said, the house does cost 2 million credits, which is pretty steep, and you still have to pay a small fee each time you fast travel, but this is still a very convenient perk. For certain objectives, particularly some seasonal objectives, you might notice that some require you to use a certain type of car. For example, in one seasonal objective, I had to take a photo of a quote, modern sports car. At first, I thought any modern sports car would do, a Porsche, Lamborghini, McLaren, whatever. But no, it turns out modern sports car is a specific classification of car within the game, and well, I had only 2 in my entire inventory. Another seasonal objective required me to use a type of car called a super saloon. Now, given how many cars are in the game, and that you can view them in several different ways, finding this information, at least for me, wasn't exactly intuitive. Thankfully, in the menu that allows you to change cars, there's a filter option where you can press Y to view only the types of vehicles you might need for a given objective. You can also filter vehicles by performance class. Also, on a related side note, if you find all the icons on the world map to be too cluttered or overwhelming, it also has a filter option where you can limit your view by including only the icons for specific events and destinations you might be interested in. If I could go back and do one thing differently in Forza Horizon 5, it would be to play the first mission in each of the 6 festivals before I did anything else. Doing this not only adds a ton of events and challenges to the world map, it opens up just about every type of event and challenge for you to play. That's because each festival is focused on a specific type of driving challenge or racing event. And completing the first mission in any festival will reveal a bunch of events and challenges related to that type of driving. For example, complete the Jungle Expedition in the Horizon Wilds Festival to open up a bunch of dirt racing events. Complete the Canyon Expedition in the Horizon Rush Festival to open up new types of PR stunts. These include Trailblazer start gates, which require you to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, or drift zones, which I'll talk more about in a bit. And there's one more reason to complete the first mission in each Horizon Festival. Doing so will set up that festival's outpost, which you can use as a fast travel location, and this is also how you reveal the location of the game's 7 houses, which again you can purchase to enable certain gameplay perks, such as the fast travel perk I mentioned earlier. One of the hardest things for me to get the hang of in Forza Horizon 5 was drifting. But then I discovered drift zones, which are a type of PR stunt I mentioned earlier that require you to rack up a high score by drifting as much as possible over a set distance. Fair warning, getting 3 stars in these events is not easy. But if you're up for the challenge, doing so in just one drift zone will go a long way to teaching you how to drift. Now, don't get me wrong, drifting is not essential to having fun in Horizon. But if you do get the hang of it to the point where it becomes second nature, it will give you an advantage. As for some specific tips on how to drift, here's what I'll say. Each car drifts very, very differently, and your experience will vary whether you're on dirt or asphalt. For paved roads, I found bigger, high-performance cars in the A or S1 performance rank to work best. That said, I never used the fastest nor the most responsive car in either class because if I had a car that was too light, too fast, or turned too easily, I'd often just spin out. So, the Lamborghini Centenario LP770-4 was, for me, the best car for learning how to drift. But once I got the hang of things, the Ford Racing Puma Forza Edition was the best car for getting the most points in paved drift zones. As for off-road drift zones, I actually had better luck with cars that were faster and more responsive, such as the BMW XM Forza Edition. However, if these cars aren't in your inventory, I'm sure there are guides online that point out some other good cars for drifting. And 2 final tips. First, if you're going fast enough, you don't have to press the e-brake much at all to do a successful drift. Second, and this is a weird one, but try completing drift zones without your driving line. I can't explain it, but when I turned my driving line off in the options menu, I was way more successful. While you can rack up a pretty good skill score just by driving fast on paved roads and whizzing by other cars, by far the best way I found to rack up a huge score, and subsequently upgrade my rides more quickly, was to go off-roading. Just find a wide open landscape, particularly one with no trees, then put the pedal to the metal. You'll gain points for not just speed, but also blasting through foliage, knocking over a cactus or 5, and for catching huge air. And if you have a car that's good for drifting, find an open field, and if you're going fast enough, you can basically pull off an endless drift, which will really boost your score. Just know that if you do hit an obstacle that stops you in your tracks, like a big tree or a house, you will lose any points you've racked up. So if you have a huge score and a decent multiplier, you might just want to slam on the brakes so you don't miss out on any car upgrades. Also, if you've purchased the Casa Bella house, which you should get pretty early on, the perk of that house is that the radio DJ will start playing skill songs. When a skill song is playing, your skill score will double. Eventually, you'll want to experiment with dozens of different cars in Forza Horizon 5. But if you're just starting out, to keep from getting overwhelmed, I'd recommend finding one on-road and one off-road car that you like and just sticking with those two at first. It can be frustrating if you decide to race in an off-road event but don't have an off-road car that you like and that you're accustomed to. Now, car unlocks in Horizon 5 are for the most part random, and with literally hundreds of cars in the game, I have no idea which ones will be available to you. But as for seeing which cars are better than others, I just use the performance rating as an overall reference. They start down at D and go all the way up to S2. That said, just because a car has an S2 ranking doesn't mean it's going to suit your racing style. In fact, I found a lot of them to be a bit temperamental, so I tended towards A and S1 rated cars at first. In addition to the checklist of accolades that you can accomplish in Forza Horizon 5, of which there are literally thousands, there are also seasonal objectives. That said, how seasons and their objectives work was a little fuzzy for me at first. To start, you can access the current season from the Festival playlist. Why it's called the Festival playlist and not the Season playlist, I don't know, and I did find that a bit confusing. Anyhow, it's here that you'll see different cards representing tasks that you can accomplish, each one giving you a certain number of points, which you'll see at the bottom of each card. These points count towards earning the rewards for that season. I'm guessing these rewards will always or almost always be cars. Now, for most of these events, not all, but most, you can click them, and if you do, your driving line will then guide you to the right spot. However, for some seasonal challenges like this photo challenge, it was more of a scavenger hunt where I had to follow instructions, then find where to go and what to do all on my own. Anyhow, all this might have been self-evident to a lot of you, but for me it took a while to wrap my head around just how these seasons worked. And there you have it. I hope you found a few tips in this video helpful, and I hope it clarified a few things in Forza Horizon 5 that might have been a bit confusing at the start. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I plan on shifting my channel to include a lot more tips and strategy guides, so if you like this content, consider dropping a like and maybe even subscribing for more. As always, I want to thank my Boss Mode patrons, Brock and Bare Knuckle Bob, and lastly, if you want to keep up with me and see what I'm playing, you can follow me on Twitter at Quest Mode Games. And with that, I want to remind everyone to never stop questing.